Yo, what's up, guys? It's the MMA analyst here to give you my betting picks for UFC 146. Let's get right down to it. First things first, actually, before we get into it, this is a tough card to pick because you're dealing with heavyweights and a lot of powerful, often sloppy heavyweights. So anything could really happen, and so I'm going to tell you the ones where I'm going to give it a gold pick when I personally won't be betting on it, and then ones where I just specifically say, man, that's a do not bet. All right, so Frank Mir versus Junior dos Santos. Okay, look, this is going to be a silver pick, all right? The odds are so bad, 550 for Junior dos Santos, and I'm really not a fan of picking people where they haven't proven certain things. If Frank Mir takes Junior dos Santos to the ground, it could be over. If he takes him to the ground. If he doesn't, then Junior dos Santos should win this fight. And that's basically why the odds are minus 550, because nobody thinks Frank Mir can get it to the ground. I don't think he'll get it to the ground, but at minus 550, it's horrendous. So what I would actually suggest doing, if you do want to make some money off of Junior dos Santos, is putting a parlay bet together between Junior dos Santos and Edson Barboza. Okay, now those are two ridiculously high bad odds, but they will win. So if you wanted to put one more in there, you could even toss in Cain Velasquez. But to be honest, that one's a little shaky. So it's going to be a silver pick for Junior dos Santos. He will win this fight, but at minus 550 and the unknown factor of his ground game, I can't say diamond or anything like that. All right, Antonio Bigfoot Silva versus Cain Velasquez. This is going to be a gold pick for Cain Velasquez. The reason I say this is Cain's been hit and dropped about 5 times in his career, 1 time in one fight. It only ever resulted in a loss 1 out of those 5 times, or maybe 4 times, 3 times against Czech Congo, 1 time against Junior dos Santos. But he's always willing to trade to set up the takedown. In a certain situations, he just needs to go in there and get the takedown. Now, I know he's a well-rounded fighter, and he prides himself off of that, and that's kind of where the worry comes. He might, somebody gets knocked out. You see what happened to Georges St. Pierre after he got knocked out. He might come back super wrestler heavyweight and just be like, I'm throwing a couple punches against these guys and I'm taking them down. I'm not going to risk losing by a quote-unquote lucky punch again. If I see Cain Velasquez do that, then I'll almost pick Cain Velasquez over anybody almost, because if he goes out there and says, I'm not going to box with these guys because they can't mess with my takedowns and they can't mess with my cardio. You got all the takedowns in the world, all the cardio in the world, and you lose a fight in 64 seconds, that's got to make you change your game plan. But until I see that, when he's fighting heavy-handed people like Antonio Bigfoot Silva, I got to chill back with it. So the odds aren't the best, but it is a gold pick for Cain Velasquez. Next fight, Stipe Miocic versus Shane Del Rosario. This is do not bet, to be honest. Shane Del Rosario, solid striker. Miocic was tagged in his last fight. I think it was against Rob Broughton. He ended up winning shortly after, but he got hit first. Del Rosario's ground game, in theory, is not as good as Stipe Miocic's ground game, but we haven't seen much from Miocic against any kind of solid competition. So at the end of the day, my regular predictions pick is for Miocic. I do think he will, he'll be all right on the feet, and if he does get in trouble, he'll take the fight to the ground. And then once he decides he's going to take it to the ground, then I think he'll just try and do it over and over again. These are heavyweights. Shane Del Rosario coming off of a year and a half layoff because he got in a car accident and had a herniated disc and all this stuff. Just a do not bet. Edson Barboza versus Jamie Varner. It's a diamond pick. It's a little different than your Junior dos Santos one because Junior dos Santos has some question marks. Edson Barboza is better than Jamie Varner everywhere. and he's faster, more powerful striker. It's just, simple as that. Jamie Varner's coming in, probably he's late replacement, stepping up, and he's gonna collect a paycheck. I'm not saying he's gonna quit, but I'm saying he probably got paid a little more for taking it at the last moment against such a dangerous competitor in Edson Barboza. And especially with his history with the WEC, I'm pretty sure that he's not coming in here getting some kind of whack-based salary or what he normally would get. And that's what he's going to be. He's going to be an opponent for Edson Barboza to beat up on, unless Varner can pull off some kind of ridiculous upset. It is a diamond pick for Edson Barboza, but like I said, the odds minus 525. It's an easy pick for Barboza. It doesn't take anybody, any kind of genius, to figure out who's going to win here. But like I said, take that fight and put it together with Junior dos Santos over Frank Mir, and you could get decent money. Maybe minus 300 on 2 guarantees. Roy Nelson versus Dave Herman. This is a silver pick for Roy Nelson. Both these guys have shown gas issues. Dave Herman has shown the ability to kind of strike, but he's a little wild with his striking, and he gets taken down against Roy Nelson if Roy Nelson decides to take this fight to the ground. And then once he's on the ground, I don't see him being able to get up. And then by the time he does get up, I say Dave Herman is dead tired, or at least way more tired than Roy Nelson. He was actually doing fine against Stefan Struve, and he gassed, and he was finished shortly after. So also Roy Nelson is very tough. If he does take a shot or two from Dave Herman, I think he can withstand those shots. So I'm actually going to upgrade it as I talk about it to a gold pick. Not much, nothing crazy, but it is a gold pick for Roy Nelson. Lavar Johnson versus Stefan Struve. This, out of the whole card, is the biggest do not bet in my mind. This is the biggest do not bet in a long time. You've got Stefan Struve. Now, by the way, I did pick Lavar Johnson in my regular betting picks. He will hit Stefan Struve first. And I think the kind of power Lavar Johnson has, and Stefan Struve's inability to just kind of take a fight to the ground when he needs to, I think he's going to get caught early, and I think he's going to lose. However, Stefan Struve has 15 wins by submission. Lavar Johnson has 5 losses, and 4 of them are by submission. His ground game is horrendous. Stefan Struve's best part of his game is his ground game, and he's long, and he's got a good ground game. So if Lavar Johnson doesn't finish Stefan Struve, he's going to get subbed. And actually, Lavar Johnson is the underdog. Again, I'm going with Lavar Johnson. I might even place a small bet on Lavar Johnson. But it's actually more of a do not bet. I'm telling you to do not bet. I might bet, but I'm telling you, leave it alone. Daniel Pineda versus Mike Brown. Really, this is another do not bet. Daniel Pineda has shown a decent amount of skills all around, and Mike Brown has shown that right now he's kind of like, I can beat Nam Fan. But who else can he beat? He's taken one hell of a decline in his career. It's kind of like the exact same situation that Miguel Torres is in, right? Like, we don't really know how far down the slide, how far along he slid down the road, or down the list or the rankings. Like, he's way away from top 10, but how far has he gone? And this fight will tell us. Against Nam Fan, he showed he could beat Nam Fan. I was surprised, actually. I do believe I picked Nam Fan, maybe. I don't know if I did. But it's going to be a do not bet here. For somebody who is at this point of their career, Mike Brown I'm talking about, putting money on him is just something that I do not suggest. All right, Diego Brandao versus Darren Elkins. This is a platinum pick for Diego Brandao. Better jiu-jitsu, better striking, very fast, well-rounded. And you saw what happens when he gets hurt. In his last fight, I think it was his last fight, or at least in the Ultimate Fighter finale, he got clocked. And twice in the first round. And pulled off one of the best submissions I've ever seen. It was amazing. So we know that he's not this kind of guy that's just going to turn his head and run for cover. So that's good. And like I said, man, powerful, ridiculous striking, great on the ground. Diego Brandao over Darren Elkins, platinum pick. Kyle Kingsbury versus Glover Teixeira. This is a silver pick for Glover Teixeira. If you look at his record, it looks like it's great. You know, I think he's got 2 wins, 17, two losses, 17 wins. He's on like a 10-fight winning streak. But if you look at who he's fighting guys with losing records. Like in his 17th fight, he fights a guy that's 0-1. He's fighting guys that are on a 7-fight losing streak. It's ridiculous who he's fighting. And the issue here is Kyle Kingsbury just got roasted by Stefan Barboza, who is definitely in the UFC because of his past, what he's been able to do for the UFC during tough times. I'm talking about the Ultimate Fighter when he fought Forrest Griffin. There are not many guys in the top 20 that Stefan Barboza can beat. So the fact that he was able to take down Kyle Kingsbury over and over again and win a unanimous 30-27 decision is crazy. So that is the reason why Glover Teixeira is probably the minus 230 favorite, is because he does have a good ground game. And he's pretty solid on the feet as well. And he has an impressive record. But I say look past the impressive record and look at the skill set. And I say impressive as in the numbers, not as in who he actually beat. I do pick Teixeira to win this fight in my regular betting pick, in my predictions video. I do pick him now. It's going to be a silver pick for Teixeira. But it's very possible that he comes out here and he's not actually able to beat Kyle Kingsbury, because the kind of people he's been fighting are not really at even Kyle Kingsbury's level, I would say. It's kind of crazy. Next fight, Dwayne Bang Ludwig versus Dan Hardy. Dan Hardy is the favorite here, folks. This is my, underdog, get your money while you can get it bet, right? I mean, man. Dwayne Bang Ludwig is better than Dan Hardy everywhere. Okay? That's number 1. Number 2, Dan Hardy's on a 4-fight losing streak, getting knocked out left and right. Number 3, he's on a 4-fight losing streak, getting knocked out left and right. And it's not all against the best. Like the first one was against George St. Pierre. He also lost against Carlos Condit in that situation. There's nothing wrong at all with Chris Lytle. But my point is that he's not the dude that the UFC has been trying to tell everybody he is. And everybody knows that now. But even now, he's still the favorite against Dwayne Bang Ludwig, who will definitely have the better striking. Dan Hardy does possess the power to knock out Dwayne Bang Ludwig. And that's why it's only going to be a gold pick for Dwayne. But, yeah, I am definitely putting money on Ludwig to win. Not a lot, but I'll be putting money on him to win. This, to me, is your best bet for just making money on this card. Again, there's not many times when I look at up and down the card and I see somebody who is the underdog where I'm like, yeah, I definitely think that guy is going to win this fight. But I think that's the case here. Jacob Volkman versus Paul Sass. It's going to be a gold pick for Jacob Volkman. Paul Sass has an amazing ground game against the level of fighter that he's faced up until this point, which I wouldn't say is that high a level of fighter. He's had some good wins, and he also is kind of like an expert in a part of MMA where a lot of people don't train against it, which is leg locks. The thing about training against leg locks is you don't really practice leg locks a lot, because a lot of the things in leg locks, in order to actually practice getting out of it, you have to get put in it. But if you get put in it and can't get out, you get injured. So you can't really practice against somebody trying to wrench your heel, because if they're successful, you get hurt. And you can't really practice against somebody going 100% on a knee bar, because if you don't get out, it's a knee bar. You know what I mean? So, people get their arms twisted all the time, and it's fine. But the legs is something people don't mess around with. wrestlers don't practice against leg locks. They'll practice defense, but they don't actually practice against leg locks. Even jiu-jitsu guys, you can't train leg locks in gi jiu-jitsu for the longest time, and you can't even pull them off. If you try a leg lock, you get eliminated in tournaments. So heel hooks, knee bars, those are things where if you're an amazing person or you're very skilled in that, then you might have a very serious chance of catching a lot of people like that. That's what Paul Sass has been able to do. Everybody he faces, he goes out there, they think, okay, I can stop it, but oh my God, I'm in a situation that I'm not in a lot. You better believe Jacob Volkman is training for this, and Jacob Volkman is the best wrestler Paul Sass has ever faced. I think Volkman's wrestling base and defensive jiu-jitsu defense will be enough to keep Paul Sass from pulling off the submission. It is a gold pick for Volkman, but I say that knowing that if I'm wrong, Volkman could tap in the first 60 seconds of the first round. So just be very aware of that. Jason Mayhem Miller versus CB Dollaway. This is one of those fights where Miller should be able to win this fight, but he's got cardio issues like crazy. He looked horrendous in his last fight against Michael Bisping. Bisping is by far a better fighter than CB Dollaway. But, CB Dollaway is all about wrestling as well. So if we find out CB Dollaway's wrestling is better than Mayhem's wrestling, then we're in trouble right there again. Miller should be able to win this fight. It's going to be a silver pick for Mayhem Miller. I do think that he will be able to control CB Dollaway on the ground. CB Dollaway is pretty good, pulling off some submissions here and there, Peruvian neckties and whatnot. If Miller gets tired in the first round, Dollaway will win rounds 2 and 3 and possibly submit him. So that is the reason why it's not a higher pick, because Miller is at a situation where I don't know how he's going to show up, if he's going to show up in shape, and if he doesn't, I'm pretty confident that Dollaway will be able to win 2 of 3 rounds or tap Jason Miller while Miller is tired. So there you go. Those are my picks. Not the greatest card to put money on, unless you pick 1 or 2 fights, maximum 3, and try and hope that one of those work out for you or 2 of those work out for you. Because there's a lot of, or if if things just happen to work out for you in general. But this is the kind of card where a lot of crazy things happen. I'm going to cross my fingers and hope it's not the case this time. MMA, it's important. Bet responsibly. Peace.